But we've been told to watch out for robots on screen since 1927, with Fritz Lang's Metropolis. So why does any of that matter? Because fiction influences fact, according to Ben Russell, curator of the Robots exhibition at the Science Museum.
I think that filmmakers have got a lot to answer for in how people understand robots, because so often the robot is the baddie, the villain of the piece, like the Terminator. Because they're very powerful images, they're the most memorable bits of films often. People leave the cinema and they go away with the idea that a robot is a nasty, dodgy thing.
Another problem. Let's turn to the professor in robotics at Middlesex University, Martin Smith, who is here. Martin, very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Quite a reminder there, actually, from Tom Cheshire. 1927, Metropolis, the robot's a baddie, and that's a trope that we've got used to, isn't it?
Yes, the media, well, the film and TV has been for, what, 100 years? Well, actually, since the invention of the word robot, 100 years, and Frankenstein, 200 years. It's all been bad news. We're all going to die tomorrow. And reality is nothing like that at all.
So what is the reality? Should we be at all concerned about artificial intelligence?
I think the benefits are going to greatly outweigh the disbenefits, the disadvantages. I mean, what we don't hear very often is, for example, lives are being saved by artificial intelligence being able to recognize cancer tumors and that sort of thing. All sorts of nasties in the human body and robots doing surgery and so forth. We don't hear about that so much.
Nonetheless, some very, very clever people, Ridley Scott, all due deference to him, but people like Stephen Hawking, when you say to Stephen Hawking, what's going to finish us off, mate? He says AI, as a species.
I think that's a unique view, and it's a very dramatic view, and it's a dystopian view.
You can't disprove it, can we? And that's the problem.
No, almost anybody's guess at what's going to happen in the future is as good as anybody else's.
No, I was going to say, you talked about their practical uses in things like medicine, but what useful practical uses do you think there is for it in our everyday lives? We for example, see those hoovers that hoover your room and heave them and don't hit the walls. There's a sort of, you can see why that's being used in people's homes, but are there more developments to come in that area?
Yes, I have one of those, and they're rather good.
Are they?
Yes.
We've been talking about it at home.
Yes, yes.
Are they expensive? No, okay, we'll talk about it.
You can get them on special offer. Yes, they're very good. That's one of the simple jobs that a robot is quite good at. When it comes to artificial intelligence, that's really, really difficult. So, for example, getting a robot to sweep the floor or play chess is relatively easy. Getting a robot to walk is extremely difficult. And Honda's Asimo has taken, what, $5 billion to make this robot. Yes, these things are possible, but are you going to employ somebody at 10, 20 pounds an hour or spend $5 billion on a robot?
And we know there are certain sectors of employment which are more vulnerable than others, don't we? I was at a wedding 6 months ago talking to an accountant. It was quite an interesting conversation. Perhaps you might be surprised to hear that. Who was saying, we're just beginning to see AI programs coming along now that will make me redundant.
Well, I mean, they said that when the first spreadsheets came out, Excel and so forth, and they're still being employed. So what I think is happening is the drudgery, the basic level, low-level stuff is being taken out, and the high-level interpretation, understanding. Robots don't understand anything. They can deal with lots of data. Not yet, and not for a long time, I suspect.
Do you think there's anything in the fact that the younger generations who are coming up, their lives are dominated by technology, that they virtually have their smartphones welded to their right hands? Are they perhaps less phobic about artificial intelligence than perhaps us older models are?
I think that's probably true. I think once you grow up with these things, it just becomes, well, that's what it is. In their lives, mobile phones have always been there, haven't they, almost, and computers and so forth, and they seem to have a sort of natural affinity that I don't have, even though it's my job.
I mean, using a device like Siri, for example, which feels like it has intelligence, although, it doesn't really. It's something that people do now, and they use it, or these devices that sit on your counter, and you shout at it and ask it what time it is, and it tells you what time it is.
The technology is not that grand, is it? They're not all that good at recognizing human voices and what you're actually trying to say. So that kind of getting the input to them is a little unreliable. And that takes a lot of work and a lot of programming and a lot of processing and a big database to recognize accurately as well as humans do. They're way, way behind how good our voice recognition and understanding is. And they don't understand anything, of course.
If I can crudely describe them as robot defenders, the robot defenders will say, but look, it's possible to build in, hardwire in, and codify things that robots can't do. I mean, this was all played out in Isaac Asimov's science fiction novels 30, 40 years ago. How plausible is that?
As far as robots are concerned, if you think of a robot as in three parts, the sensors, the intelligence, the computing, and the actuators. Actuators are extremely good, although not as good as human muscles yet. The sensors are better than humans. The speed of processing is better than humans, but the understanding, the change, moving data into information, into understanding, we're long way ahead of, behind. So a long way to go till we get that stage.
Martin, really good to come in. Thanks very much indeed, Martin Smith.
Pleasure.
I don't know who I felt more sorry for at that wedding. You are the accountant.